Hey guys, how's it going? I want to give you an update today. It's been a while since I made a video, so I thought I'd give you an update of where I'm at. And today I'm going to focus on perfectionism because reflecting on everything that I've been through, I have returned to really focusing on this aspect of my recovery, dealing with the perfectionistic tendencies because I think it's important. And I think this is where I need to focus my attention right now, because I feel like that's the point where I'm going to get the next, where I'm going to reach the next level, to a complete recovery, and I'll explain why. So, what I've done in the past is, I focused on all of these different aspects like perfectionism, exposure therapy to deconditioned fear of activity. Just fear of activity was a big thing. And I've my focus has been more on one thing and less on the other because you only have so much attention, you only have so much focus. So the past, say, year, I've been really focused on increasing my physical activity, increasing my mental activity, just not having a fear of activity, and that's been great. I have made tremendous progress on that basis. Like, I'm exercising and I'm able to do lots and lots of stuff and basically and program and do everything, but I still have symptoms. And I feel like to get rid of these last symptoms, it's not going to be enough. Working on the fear of activity is not going to take care of that. Because it's coming from all the anxiety that I experience because of my perfectionistic tendencies. As I've discussed before, anxiety and perfectionism, they're linked. Perfectionism is anxiety about a whole bunch of stuff, right? It's anxiety about things being just right, you being just good enough, and you being nobody getting mad at you. For example, that's the people pleasing aspect of it. Achieving enough, making sure I'm very productive and working a lot, and not letting anything slide excessively. Like, all of these are great qualities to have, yeah? To have good relationships with people, to be responsible, conscientious, not to let people down, to be a productive member of society, to contribute something. All of these are great things. But when you're constantly anxious, it can be excessive. And when it's excessive, you're constantly anxious about it. You're constantly, pressuring yourself. Did I do enough? Did I do enough? Am I good enough here? Am I good enough here? Is this just right? Is that just right? And living like that, you're always generating anxiety, right? And that's the connection to the physiology. There are two main connections, the way I think of it, is to, the relationship between the psychological and the physiological, the physical, it's the anxiety. It's the fight or flight response that's constantly getting triggered. In small doses and medium doses and large doses, doesn't matter. If it's happening a lot all the time, throughout the day and even throughout the night, especially throughout the night, you're always going to be like amped up, tense, and you're not going to feel your best. And that's what I have sort of known, but I've really sort of decided to focus on this now because I think that's where I can get the most bang for my buck in terms of effort. So that's what I've been sort of focused on. That means, for example, it's going to be individual, right? Because you are the expert in your own psychology, and what I really recommend you do is pay attention. Just pay attention to what is happening to me, what am I doing, what is driving my behavior, what am I experiencing emotionally, physically, in terms of anxiety or other emotions, and what is it driving me to do. Like, for example, I'll give you an example, a personal example. I'm really extreme with how much information I gather on anything. For example, when making a decision, like, let's say I want to buy something like an electric razor or whatever. I'll read so many reviews, like, excessively, and I'll try to read every comment, and I'll look into every comment. Oh, did this comment mean blah, 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 blah. I'll spend like days and days researching like this relatively simple purchase, that, and I would ask myself, well, would a normal person do this? Not who's not so perfectionistic, and I try to act a little bit more like that, but also recognizing where I allow my perfectionism to sort of take over when it's like a really important decision. Like, if I'm choosing a neurosurgeon, I'd give it more leeway. Thank God I don't need a neurosurgeon right now. and hopefully I never do, but it was like an important decision like that. Yeah, it might make sense, like this is where that quality might come in handy, but not with most things that I deal with every day, day to day. It doesn't matter in that case. But when I try to behave that way, when, for example, I abstain from collecting all that information, I get anxious. But that's really the only way through it. Is there's going to be some increase in anxiety, and probably consequently in how you feel, it's going to be affected. You might not sleep as well, etc., etc. Because what is happening deep down is that my brain, consciously and unconsciously, is interpreting that as danger. Oh my God, he's not gathering enough data, and this decision is really, really important in my mind, Yeah, sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's not even conscious, but if you think about it and you sort of tune into yourself, you realize, yeah, I'm treating this, and really my deep attitude towards this decision, and pretty much every decision is like, this is like everything is hanging on it. God forbid I make a mistake, and I'm not satisfied with this razor, then I will have wasted my money and the resources and blah, blah, blah. And of course, there's a huge downside to this that's obvious. The amount of time invested, is a huge amount of time. That's your life, that's my life. And the other downside is, of course, all the anxiety that you perpetuate. Because as you continue to engage in these behaviors, you just perpetuate the anxiety, you strengthen it. It's sort of a confirmation to your brain, yes, indeed, this is an important decision. A mistake cannot be made here. And we must, pursue information and gather all the data and blah, 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 blah. So what I do now is I focus on not being so obsessive about things, not being so perfectionistic about things, and not doing things because I must, I should do more, Oh my God, it's a nice day outside, I mustn't miss out and go for a walk. But you know what? Sometimes on a nice day, you still don't feel like going outside just because you're reading a book or whatever. But here I am sitting and I'm like, oh, I must not miss out on this day, And everything, like, oh, should I call my friend or not call my friend? What will they think if I call them? Like, all this stuff is constantly generating anxiety. And we've sort of looked at it. I've discussed a little bit looking at it from the point of view of anxiety disorders. But here I'm looking at it more through a lens of just your entire personality style, personality structure being very perfectionistic, and I think you know what I mean. For example, Dr. Sarno highlights perfectionism and people-pleasing and achievement, that people who develop these kinds of conditions tend to have these kinds of personalities. So I'm doing pretty good with that. It's not easy. It's really hard work, but I really, really want to do this because realizing what's going on with you is very important. Becoming aware each time this is happening, each time you're engaged in this process, in this perfectionistic tendency, each time it's triggered, each time it's driving your behavior, each time it's driving how you feel emotionally and physically, interlinked, not separable really. You see how much you're suffering as you become more and more aware of it, and you want to change it. And it's hard, but you want to change it. So because I'm really tired of living like this. I don't want to live like that anymore. It's not fun. It's not fun. No matter how much I achieve, I don't enjoy it. What's the point? No matter what I do, you know what I mean? It is pointless. The point is, to have some joy in your life. And so I'm really seeing how much it's robbing me of joy, robbing me of life satisfaction, and creating my physical symptoms. It's so clear now that's been the root of it going back all along. And it interlinks with concerns about health, right? Because when you're perfectionistic, that can turn towards your health too. Oh, I mustn't have any symptoms whatsoever, I mustn't have, it's normal for your body to have some body noise, to have sometimes to be fatigued, sometimes to be, have like a sore throat, even if you're not sick. Sometimes that happens, just you wake up, you're feeling weird or whatever. And of course, when you start focusing on it, you start getting anxious. It starts creating a physiological reaction, and that creates more symptoms, and it can get into this vicious circle, a vicious cycle, and that's your perfectionism turned towards your body and your health, and you demanding from your body and from yourself that you be absolutely healthy at all times, and that just generates more very real, very physical symptoms. And also it drives your attention towards those symptoms, which amplifies the symptoms in our subjective experience. That's been proven by so many studies. Like there's a study that patients who are asked, like after surgery, patients who are asked to check their pain levels every 20 minutes experience more pain than patients after the same surgery who are only asked to rate their pain like once at the end of the day, And there are many, many studies. There's a whole book about like these kinds of studies. But the point is, when you focus on unpleasant sensations, they grow bigger in your subjective experience. Nothing might have changed physically, but in your subjective perception of things, you experience them as more intense. That's just how it works. I don't know why. That's how the mind works. So when you turn your perfectionism towards your body, you can see how this is interlinked. Yeah, it becomes like a vicious cycle is generated. So yet another reason to focus on perfectionism for me for now. Now, what I did in the past was not wrong. It was absolutely the right thing to do. I had so much fear of activity, mental and physical, that I really needed to put in that work, to go through that. And now I'm at a certain level. I'm basically all right in terms of function, but I still don't feel great, and inside, both on a physical and a emotional level. So I'd like to take care of that. So that's where my focus has been. I feel pretty confident that as I chip away, on the perfectionism, I'll feel better and better. And the big trap here is, of course, not getting perfectionistic about dealing with perfectionism, because that's a trap I fall into. Oh, I gotta read another book on perfectionism, Oh my God, I gotta do another perfectionism exercise, to make sure that I'm not perfectionistic, anymore, da 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 da. So it's not easy, and sometimes you just gotta laugh at yourself. Anyway, guys, I hope you found this helpful. That's my update. But basically, I'm doing great. Don't worry. I know some of you sometimes worry, like if I don't post a video for a while, you think like, oh, maybe he's collapsed. No, I'm doing great. I'm doing fine. Just continue on your journey. Reflect on your stuff. Pay attention to yourself. Try to understand yourself. Try to understand your own psychology. That might involve working with a therapist for a while, but only as long as you really feel you're benefiting. It may involve journaling or just self-reflection or whatever. Try to understand and connect things up for yourself. I think like if you tune into yourself, you will sort of get a sense of like what I need to do. What's the next thing for me to do to deal with this. So that's it for now, man. I hope this year is going to be great for all of us. Peace.